Hi everyone, thanks for joining today's webinar. My name is Desi. I am in the marketing department here at Toon, and today's webinar will be given to us by Genevieve. Genevieve is a long-time Toon user and a long-time Toon employee here. She's a great artist that we really take advantage of in-house. She's also a trainer, and she's worked at many studios in and around Montreal, and really just a master at our software. And today she's going to be giving us a webinar about the Pose Copier. As most of you may know, we released Harmony 14 a few weeks ago, and one of the brightest features that we have in this version is the Pose Copier. There have been a lot of questions about this feature, and Genevieve is going to really just give you an overview of the capabilities. Also, at the end of this webinar, you can ask us questions, so you can always type in questions in the question section of the control panel in your GoToWebinar profile. We'll reserve the last 15 minutes for questions, or if you want, you can always email us as well at webinars@toonboom.com, and we'll answer you via email. Lastly, this webinar is being recorded and will be online within a couple days of this broadcast. So I'm going to pass it over to Jen. Jen, it's all yours.
All right. Hi, everybody. So today I'm really excited to be showing you the Pose Copier, which is a pretty exciting feature. So we'll just get started right away, and I'll show you a quick preview of what exactly the Pose Copier is. Well, first of all, the Pose Copier is a script. So for those of you not familiar with the scripting toolbar, you can go and get it from up here, and by just right-clicking, you can go and get the toolbar right here. And by bringing in the scripting toolbar, you'll find it up here. You can click on Manage Scripts to go and get access to a whole bunch of cool stuff. All of the scripts that you'll find in here, all the ones starting with TB, are scripts that have been developed in-house. So you can also, if you like to dabble into scripting, create your own scripts as well, right from within Harmony. But for today, we'll just focus on the Pose Copier right here. So we're going to select this one, bring it over to the scripting toolbar. So right over here, you just click on the little arrow and press OK. So the Pose Copier is this little wheel that we have right here. And the Pose Copier works in association with the library. So you want to make sure that you have both open at the same time. And right here, I've already created a couple of templates just to show you real quick how the Pose Copier works exactly. So I have a full template here of my character Orcus, and I'm going to be launching the Pose Copier. So I need to just select the template and launch the Pose Copier. And here I have this new window that pops up. So it has quite a few buttons in here. It might look a little intimidating to somebody that just started with this, but it's actually a very efficient tool when you're doing cutout animation. So if I move through the slider here, we can see that I have different poses in my template for my character, and these are all poses that I had initially in my template. So it's not creating anything new, it's just giving me access to the stuff right here. Now, I have my character here inside of my window, and I can simply select the pose that I want and then click on Paste, and right away the information gets pasted onto my character right here. I could select a different one, click Paste, and come and apply this position as well. So essentially this is what the Pose Copier does. It allows you to have access to multiple poses inside of your template and be able to paste them directly into your character, even if you didn't have any information outside of your rig inside of your scene. So to look a little more in depth about how to create your template to work with the Pose Copier. Well, first of all, you can really simply just go into your node view or within your timeline. Both of them work, and you can just select your item, copy, go over to your library. Now remember that you need to acquire the rights to your folder right here if you want to be able to modify it. So right click, get right to modify, and we're gonna simply paste in there our layer. So we have our full character in here. Now by default, you'll notice that when you've just created a new template for your character or for your new template, you won't be able to see a preview of your asset in here. So you need to generate these. And the Pose Copier, if I try to launch it with this template, you'll see that I get no image right here at the present time because I haven't generated any thumbnails in here, and the thumbnails that are inside those templates are stored in the template itself. So these are the ones that are used with the Pose Copier to identify the frame that you'll want pasted. So to generate the thumbnails for your template, really easy. You just right click and select generate thumbnails. Now I won't be doing it for this character because he's a pretty big guy, excuse me. And sometimes it takes maybe a minute to generate the thumbnails the first time. But what's good is that those images are staying stored inside the template. So you only really need to do this step once. So once you have your template set up, you simply launch the Pose Copier afterwards. And there's a bunch of information in here. Right now, we can just focus on the use default destination mode. So this actually enables you to store the position where your template will be pasted into your scene. So you would select this option right here, and then, for example, for my my character where I had here my full character, I could decide to store it directly on the group itself or on the peg, because this is how I templated my character, right? So I had the entire group right here. So once I have the Pose Copier open for this, I could select my group or my peg here, set it as the default destination. This is also getting stored into the template, so you won't have to re-enter it again. And then, easy as that, you can move to a different pose, paste it, and you won't have to go and select it every time. Even if you're on another character or on another layer, then you'll be able to just paste the option right away that you want, and it's going to associate with the default destination. Now, one way that that we used to work before was to always have the hierarchy of our rig take priority over the naming conventions that we had for the different layers that we have inside of our character. So you can imagine that a character this size probably has quite a few pieces, like even the nostrils and the nose are separated. So one thing that that works really great now is that you're able to paste your template. So if I take this template right here, and right now I already have it set to be able to paste on the head. So if I wanted to have a side head, and he looks like a mean little guy, so if I paste it, now it's normal for the head to move over because when my character turns around, he has a pretty thick neck, so it's going to end up over here. But what it would do usually is that if I change the hierarchy of my character in here and not in my original template, I wouldn't be able to paste the layers on top of it. It would just tell me, you know what, you've changed your structure, it's no longer the same, so you're going to have to redo a template. Now with the paste by layer name right here, which I have checked, this is no longer necessary. So I could go inside my character's head. So I'll just press O to center on selection. And how about we give the character a little hat here. So I'm just going to connect that above everything else. So you can see it is quite a big structure. I'm going to give it a peg and just going to make this a little bigger here and connect it to the full head of my character. So I have the hat and can just come and create our drawing here. He looks like a top hat kind of guy. There we go. So now I have a hat on my character. I'm just going to launch the Pose Copier again. And I have a different position here. Maybe I have something where he's looking up. And we're just going to paste again. And you can see that the hat is following the direction in which my character is facing. Even if we've added a layer, it's still pasting over it, while that was not possible earlier. So I'm going to remove that hat. And so this is how you work with a simple version of the Pose Copier. Now you can get something a bit more advanced. When I launch the Pose Copier, as you can see right now, I have quite a few drawings in that template. So sometimes it's easy to get lost. You know, you've got the lip sync, you have different head positions, you have a different tilt, even with my character looking up or looking down. So it is quite extensive. So sometimes it's good to be able to separate these a little bit more. So I'm just going to show you guys how to create a more advanced version of these templates. Okay. All right. So if I want to do another template of my head, one thing that can be good is to bring in some guide layers. Now, the guide layers, what they do is they're going to associate a certain frame to one of your sliders inside of the Pose Copier. Now, if I go on here, this is one I made with some guide layers. If we look at the difference from what we had before, now if I take this slider and I move it, I only have the 5 different views. So I have front, quarter front, side, quarterback, and back. As you can see in here, these are the names that I get whenever I move my slider. I get different names, and you'll also see that the frame number is changing as well. So the frame number here is associated to the frame number inside of your template. So the Pose Copier doesn't create anything new. It only refers back to stuff that you've created inside the template. Now, if I were to make a different setting for each of those sliders, as you can see, I have 3 here. I have 3 sliders over here, so this is great. And I'm able to associate each one of these with a different slider. So for instance, my character is going to be talking, so I could have a slider for the lip sync and have a bunch of different mouth shapes that associate with the slider. So I have happy mouth, sad mouth, and lucky for me, I've created these for every possible shape. So every possible position. So I have this for quarter front, side view, and well, obviously we're not going to be seeing them that much in the other two, but even if I change to my happy grinning mouth, go over here, you can see that the lip sync sticks to the frame I've associated with. And now if we want to push it a step further, we can actually tilt the head up, tilt the head down with the third slider right here. These are all associated again with the different things that you see here. So vertical slider, I have down, mid, and up. And with the second horizontal slider right here, I have different drawing names that are over here. So SA for sad mouth. I have X for some expression mouths right here, and H for the happy mouth sets. So if we want to see a bit more clearly what exactly is happening in here with these layers, I'll just create a display to see those in the timeline. So my display 2, and we'll make this a bit bigger to have a better idea of what exactly is going on here. So these layers, these 3 layers, need to be incorporated in my template in order for the all the sliders of the Pose Copier to work. Now, the way that they're associated with the sliders is because of the 3 little letters that you see right here at the beginning. So for this one, I have SLH-turn. So the only important part that you need to keep in order for the sliders to identify to one of those guide layers is the SLH-. So you absolutely need to keep this part in order for it to work. And then after that, you can just add a slight indication of what it's going to be used for. For example, right here, SLH I've used for the turn. SLV- is going to be the vertical slider, and for this one I've added tilt to do the head tilt, so up, mid, and down. And SLX is the second horizontal slider, so SLX-, and I've called it lip sync because obviously that's why I've used it for my character. Now, you may notice that my drawings that I have here aren't set up in the same way. I have a lot more for the lip sync. I have a few for the tilt, and the turn has less drawings than the other 2. So going back to my view right here, If you look at the library, you can look at all the different sliders that I have here. This information, so the way that I've named my drawings is the same as the numbers that I was showing you in the Pose Copier. So, for example, side, my drawing over here is going to associate with that. If I go to my turn, so I have front. On all the frames that I'm going to see my character's front head, because there is no information in those drawings. These are just empty drawings. See, if I go into my drawing tools, there's no information in there whatsoever. They just need to be named the right way to associate in the Pose Copier. So right now I've named this one front. If I go further, you'll see that when my character goes into quarter front view, I'll be seeing the quarter front frame. Doesn't matter if the head tilts or if he looks up, this is going to change only in the tilt layer. So here I have the side view all the way exposed to the 3/4 back. The reason why I've put a T in front of quarterback and a Z in front of back is that the Pose Copier is going to be reading those names in alphabetical order. So if I change front, quarter front, you'll see side, and then 3/4 back and back. If I had just written back, it would have been at the start. So you could put a number in front, just as I did with the vertical slider, for instance. The vertical slider works in a way where you're going to get the alphabetical order from the way down all the way up to the top of your slider. So I have 1 down, 2 mid, and 3 up, which is exactly the same thing as I get in my SLV tilt right here. If I go back to the beginning of my timeline, so I have 2 mid, where my character is just facing towards him. I have 1 down, where he's facing down, and 3 up, where he's looking up. You'll notice that I only have 3 drawings inside of my drawing substitution, so I don't have more than 3 drawings, meaning that when I change to a new position, like the quarter front, it doesn't create a new drawing. I just copy and paste the information over to reuse the same frame. Otherwise, it will create more information in here. So I would have more than just 3 positions. I would have as many as the number of drawings that I have in here exposed on the timeline. So I'm really just repeating those steps: 2 mid, 1 down, 3 up, and just reusing over and over so that they can associate with the slider at this particular frame. Always take into consideration that these have no information other than what you're giving them, really. So they need to be positioned at the proper frame according to the character that you have, no matter how simple or how complex. Now the SLX slider, which is the one with a lot of information in it, has basically the same concept as the other two. It's all of the different frames for the lip sync. Remember that they can be called pretty much anything that you want, but if you want them to be in alphabetical order or in a certain order inside of your Pose Copier, you want to make sure that they're named a certain way. So I have here all the sad mouth starting with an S. I have the X mouth for the expression mouth starting with an X, and all the happy mouths in here. And again, as with the other layer, I'm only reusing the same information for the other ones, so that when I tell my slider to show me a front view looking down with the HG mouth, it's going to associate to this frame. And if I decide to change it over to looking straight, it's going to be the same mouth as if I were to choose it over on another view as well. So once your layers are properly set up, you can just disconnect these. You no longer need to see the information that you have in here. And depending on what you want to template, you're just going to cut them and go and put them inside the part of your character that you wish to template with the guide layers. So for me, that would be the head. So I'll just go in here. And I'm going to paste them. Now I have all three of my layers in here, SLH, SLV, and SLX. You don't need to have all three if you planned on using just one layer. You could set it up and use this one. If you wanted to have two, you could do that as well. And there's always, you know, the method of not doing so, not doing it with the guide layers and just templating it without. But then you would get, as I was showing earlier, a really big slider. So now I have my three guide layers inside of my head. And what I can do is just go back here, select my group. I'm going to copy that, move over here, going to paste it. Always good to name your templates accordingly, and press OK. Now again, in order to launch the Pose Copier properly, you need to make sure that you have your thumbnails rendered. Just right-click, generate thumbnails. And as I was mentioning earlier, once you render these out, even if it takes a minute, if you have a really big character, you're going to be able to get access to those because there are certain information such as the thumbnails that are retained within the template right here. So our thumbnails are generating. And here we go. So now we're able to launch the Pose Copier. Right now this is a brand new template. We haven't really changed anything in it so far. So we have a couple of options in here that we can work from. So we have the update template right here. So if I were to select the full template of my body right here, I could just press update and it would just right away update to the current template that I have selected. So it's just basically updating all of the information from the Pose Copier all the way to the currently selected template. I can always see the name of my template here, so the current one that I have selected. That way, if you have multiple ones that are similar, you can always know from the from the template name right here. If we go back down here under the sliders again, as I was mentioning, we have the vertical slider, horizontal, with the frame name that you've designated inside of your template here. Which, by the way, if you've never renamed a drawing before, if I were to rename this one, for example, I could just go and press Command D to rename drawing, or otherwise you can just go under drawings, maybe rename drawing right here, and it's going to take you to the same place. So you can rename your frames from here, and these will be shown right here along with the other information on the frames. So then we have the three options here. I went over quickly earlier on how these two would work, where you could paste information by layer name instead of hierarchy. So this is actually an option that you can check or uncheck depending on how you prefer to work. You have the use default destination module active. If you deactivate it, you're not going to be able to press either of those buttons. So you really have to check this option. Otherwise, what's going to happen is that every time that you want to paste something, for example, if I take this layer here and I uncheck this, and right now I don't even have a default destination. If I press paste, it's just going to tell me that I don't have a current destination selected. So I really need to make sure that when I have this option unchecked, I need to go and select the destination of my layer. So if I paste it now while having the full head group selected, now it works. So by having this one, the use default destination module selected, as I was mentioning, this is information that is retained inside the template. As you can see, if I go to my other template and update it, I still have this information available in here. Now, if you want to set the destination, simply select the group right here. There are little differences in terms of how you've created your template and how you should set your default destination. So, for example, if I templated a group here, I want to make sure that if I set a default destination, it's going to be the group itself. Or if I select the top group, it also depends on whether or not you have the paste by layer name option active, and if it's going to be recognizing the peg. So if I set it to neck and head on here, and I were to paste it, it's still going to work. But if I go inside of my template, right now I've created it with the entire group of the head, and if I were to set this as the default destination, right now it's not pasting the information that I want. So I really need to make sure that when I template a full group like this, that I do it either on the group as a destination layer or above. So anything above the hierarchy with the paste layer by name is going to get recognized and automatically sent over to my layer to be pasted. The next option that we have here is the fill to next key exposure button. So if I activate this, I'm just gonna close this real quick to show you an example of how this came to be. If I were to delete these frames right here, so suppose I'm starting out my animation and I only have one drawing at the beginning. Let's forget that any of this is here. And I want to change that position and apply it all the way to the next frame right here. So if I select my template again with the layers, I'm going to launch the Pose Copier. Say I want to give my character a mean look. Oh, he looks pretty unhappy. So suppose I like this, I'm going to click Fill to Next Key Exposure. And what this will do is it will paste all the way, filling all the way up to the next key exposure. So this is pretty cool when you want to have your position be set all the way up to your next frame, especially if you're going back and forth between different poses and you don't necessarily want to apply to just the one frame. Okay. So the Find button that you have here that comes with the default destination module will just simply find the current layer, whether you want to find it inside of your timeline or inside of your node view right here. And it's going to right away center on it if you need to apply something additional to it. So now one of the last options that we have at the moment in the Pose Copier is the Exclude Modules button. So we have our layers here. So this one option, the Exclude Modules, is something that we're working on implementing. Right now it's not complete. We're still gathering customer feedback on whether or not people are interested in using it. How it works is that if you have, for instance, your full character right here and you want to be able to paste the body while keeping the head to be in front view, for example. So how you would do it is simply go over to your character and you want to be able to select the different modules that you want to exclude from the rig. So not necessarily from the rig, but from the pasting of the keyframes on the rig. So if I find my head inside the timeline right here, I want to be able to select all the different modules that I want excluded. So for example, just let's just grab these modules right here. And I need to be able to tag them inside the timeline. So I'm going to right click on those, select tag, and then go over to timeline tag. And what happens when you tag modules inside the timeline is that you get this little asterisk showing up next to it. And these are going to be recognizable then by the Exclude Modules button right here. So you can see it opens up a new window. And from here you can choose to create a new preset. So for example, right here, I didn't pick all of the necessary modules that I wanted to exclude, but let's say I would create one that is Orcus with no head, so headless orc. Let's create that preset. So I have it showing up here with a little check mark next to it. And I can add the tagged items to selected preset. So once you've added these, you should have all of your tagged modules right here. Remember, you need to tag the drawings, so you need to add them in here. And you can add some more as you go along. If you wanted to tag some more, you can just select it and then choose to add them afterwards. And the way you can clear the tags from your timeline, if you need to start a new one, you would just right-click again, select tag, and then just choose untag all. So how this would work is that you have now your excluded modules list. You can remove some presets, you can keep them active, or even uncheck some of these in the box. And if you decide to exclude some of the modules, if this checkbox right here is checked, once you go and paste your layer right here on the orc at any position that you want, it will exclude the modules that you have tagged in here. So honestly, that's pretty much the Pose Copier in a nutshell. And if you guys have questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
So yeah, there's a lot of questions. So thanks, Genevieve. The first question we'll ask is from John. So John wants to know: can the Pose Copier help reorganize drawings in the script sheet output, i.e., by recording the slider drawings?
In the script sheet output, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by script sheet output, unfortunately.
So we'll give John some time to clarify his question.
Okay.
Hang on, just going through the questions. So can you tell us a little bit about Harmony 12? Would this be the same setup process in Harmony 12?
It's a similar process, yes. There are options that weren't here in Harmony 12. We've really pushed our game in Harmony 14 and added the fill to next key exposure option. And the paste by layer name also is a very interesting one that allows you to break the shackles that were on you when you wanted to just change something in your hierarchy.
So Davi wants to know, well, first of all, he says this is a great webinar, so thank you. And the second part of it is the green square that says mouth on the node view. Is that new in Harmony 14?
The green square that says mouth. And let's see. If you're referring to this, this is actually something that isn't new to Harmony 14. These are called backdrops. They're essentially little backgrounds that you can put in your node view at the back of your structure, and it allows you to move all of your different nodes at the same time. So kind of like grouping them up while still being able to see them. If I go to my node view and look at my character right here, I have multiple backdrops in here. So creating one is actually really simple. If I were to make a selection of the backdrops that I want to, of the nodes that I want to include in my backdrop, you just go to your upper right corner right here, the little 3 lines, and you go to Insert, backdrop, and it's going to create one that's sized to fit all of the different nodes in it. And in the backdrop properties, you can choose from a variety of different colors. You can name your backdrop here, and you can also write little notes in here that you can add. And what's really nice about the titles is that they're no matter how far away you zoom out, you'll be able to read them.
Next question from Jason. Can the Pose Copier be set up to paste the cycles, i.e. runs, walk, cycles, etc.?
At the present time, they're only pasting individual frames because you're choosing an individual frame from the Pose Copier right here. And it is just a single frame, but it's definitely something that we'd like to look into to be able to paste multiple frames or cycles.
Cool. Luke wants to know, do the guide layers correspond to key poses in the template?
Not necessarily. They can really be any pose that you are interested in using. What I usually try to avoid when using the guide layers is having twice the same pose within the guide layers. So you want to make sure that when you have your setup for your scene and that you have your guide layers lined up inside of your timeline here, that everything is really neat and clean. That's the one thing that's the downside, is that you need to be organized. So I guess it's a good thing then, because it's helping you keep clean in your rig. And I would suggest creating a scene all on its own just for the setup, so that you don't necessarily change anything inside of your rig, and you have a backup of it. So one for the setup of the Pose Copier and to make your templates from, and your original scene.
Cool. Patricia is asking an interesting question. You talked about naming your head template specifically and using all 3 scroll bars to go through the drawings and head views. Could you please go over the process to configure the script to react to the different modules?
Sure. Well, it's really easy, actually. You don't the script itself for the Pose Copier is already associating those 3 layers with these particular naming conventions. So if I were to just create some new ones, I would just easily name them SLH for the first horizontal slider. I would have SLV for the vertical, and SLX for the second horizontal. And once you have them named SLH dash, SLV dash, and SLX dash, they will automatically associate with those 3 sliders.
Nice. So John is asking, will the Pose Copier be able to recognize the order of the sprite sheet if you want them in a different order?
As I was saying, the order in which they appear is simply in alphabetical order or in numerical order. So these ones here, I could have easily named them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inside of my frames that I had inside of my guide layers. And these could have been as well just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they would be in that particular order. The only tricky one is you got to remember that the vertical slider starts with 1 at the bottom and then going up to 3.
Gabrielle was wondering, is there a way to use Pose Copier on keyframed poses?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this guy is actually using keyframe poses. They're not different drawings necessarily all the time. The pose that you would see over here is made only with keyframes. This is actually a 360 rig that is using only this pose and deformation to move to the other poses as well. So these are, for the most part, keyframes.
Next question comes from Jeff. Can you use deformations?
Yes, indeedy. You certainly can.
Just going through the questions. Is there any doc information on how to create the template with different views you showed with the namings needed? I work in Harmony Advanced, but I guess it works there too?
Yeah, absolutely. You can get all the information that you need from docs.toonboom.com, and we have updated the information with a brand new section on the Pose Copier, which you'll find under rigging and fine-tuning.
Davey wants to know those big squares on your node view. Is that a new feature in Harmony 14?
Nope. We've just covered this square right here. These are called backdrops, and they've been around for a couple of versions. I couldn't tell you exactly which, but they are in Harmony 12.
Cool. So we've gone through most of the questions. Wait, Lindsay has a question. How does the Pose Copier work with deformers? Does the copy of the deformer setting info over when you switch out the pose through it?
It works really great with deformation. This pose right here, for instance, has a deformation all around it, and it is not in its neutral position. If I were to reset this, for example, I would get a different pose. So it just pastes the same as it would ordinary keyframes on the pegs, really.
So that's pretty much it for questions for today's webinar. So Jen, thanks a lot. If there's anybody else who has a question, please feel free to email us at webinars@toonboom.com. This is really helpful. We hope this answered your questions. And again, if you do have any questions, please email us and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. There are more webinars coming up. You can always go to webinars@toonboom.com and you can see what's up next in the coming weeks. And lastly, this webinar was recorded, so it'll be online shortly. So again, thanks, Jen. You're the best.
Thank you, everyone.